All right, good afternoon, everybody. This is day 2 of week 9. So a little recap from our first meeting of the week, which is fourth quarter topic ideas. Okay, so please submit your topic ideas because next Tuesday I would like to kind of I'm going to look through them, make a list, and then we'll try to go through and vote. And then from the list, the approved list, I'll go through and kind of filter which ones work and maybe which ones might not work. And then put together a full list. And then what we can do in class next Tuesday is we can go through and try to narrow that down to probably like 5 or 6 topics that we could cover in fourth quarter. All right. And stuff. So please get those submitted. We talked about it in class on Tuesday. We brainstormed a little bit. I read over some lists. We got a little sidetracked, but that's okay. That's part of the fun sometimes. So I've only gotten 3 submissions. So please get those in. This assignment and then the this week's debate, animal testing, these are the last 2 assignments for third quarter. Okay. I do want to go over, before we get into the animal testing, this week's topic and stuff is I want to show you, make sure that you're checking these announcements. So every Monday and Friday, I post basically what needs to be done. So it's like a to-do list, okay, to help keep students on track. It also is to inform you of what assignments are open that you can submit, okay? Anything prior to me coming into the class has closed. I did extend, so the week 6, I came in week 7, so the week 6 assignments, I did extend those an extra week. So those were open 2 weeks instead of 1 week. I actually doubled the time. So those closed last week, so those will not be reopened. And anything that I have then assigned to you since I've been here, so this is my 3rd week, so week 7, week 8, those are still open and I will leave those open till the 5th, all right? Half of these are summative. So the videos, those are formative, but the debate sheets are where we look at like a video and resources and kind of you pick a side of a topic, do some research to provide the counter argument and then kind of put together your argument of why you took the position you did. Those are all summative. Okay. So for example, like what we did yesterday, picking topics, that's a formative, but that's not a hard assignment. Right. And then the summatives are more time consuming and stuff like that. But we do a lot of it in class, discuss, and then give you time to work on those. Okay. So lots of opportunities. If your grade's a little bit low, you're trying to bring it up, especially summative. You only had 1 summative through week 6. So, and then I've given you 3. So there's 4 total summatives, 3 of which are week 7, 8, and 9. So again, going back and opening up those other ones isn't really necessarily going to help your grade. There's plenty of summative opportunities that can help bring up your grade. Okay. Any questions on any makeup work or where to find assignments or what you can do to bring up your grade? If you don't like the grade you got on a week 7, 8, or 9 assignment, you can make adjustments and resubmit it. So there's been a few of you that have submitted a worksheet and there were maybe some issues. So I took off some points. I marked it on the rubrics or made comments. Go in, make those adjustments, resubmit it. Okay, that's an opportunity too, where you're like, I've submitted everything, but did you get 100% on it? Or can you make adjustments and resubmit it? Okay. So it's another way that you can improve your grade. Yes, go ahead.
For the topic assignment, can I just put one link for the topic that I got?
Topics? Yeah. So for each one, so picking 2 to 3 topics and then provide at least one source to show that you've looked into it a little bit. You know what I mean? Like considering, because not every topic is a good debate topic, right? You know what I mean? There's lots of topics that they actually work for class. So at least just trying to help us filter a little bit. But yeah, that works. One source is fine.
Okay, because I tried to do 2, but all of them are blocked. So
okay, is it? So maybe tell me which ones if you're having a hard time finding, because I can usually find sources, but if it's blocking a lot of them, the school and the dang Chromebooks, it makes it really really annoying. Yes, Cielo, go ahead.
Are we allowed to use the same source over and over? Or does it have to be separate ones?
Good question. So you're talking about the worksheet, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it depends. So some of the sources, right, are pro and con. So in that case, right, if you can find pro, so let's say the plastics, just for example. So there's sources that are pro and con, sources that are pro, sources that are con, right? On each of those pages. So if it's one of the pro con ones, then you could potentially use it partially for pro, partially for con, but you cannot use the same source. So let's say, does that make sense? You could use it, you could double dip there. But if you're doing, let's say you're pro getting rid of plastic bottles, okay? You cannot use the same source for both pro. You have to use two different sources.
Okay.
And
I got it.
so like some sources, they show both sides of the argument. So then you could use them in part 2 and part 3, you know, for supporting your argument and showing the other side, because there's always two sides of the argument. But if whatever side of the argument you take where you have to give two sources, those need to be two different sources.
Okay. I got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hopefully that's not confusing. Yeah, good question. Any other questions?
Oh wait, okay. What would be considered like not school appropriate?
I did say like probably we won't debate religion just for the sake of like that's very personal and we're not here to try to make anybody. So I probably would stay away from religion. What are you planning on debating?
Oh, okay. All right.
And stuff. You know, probably I don't know. It's going to kind of depend because there's certain topics where like if you were let's say the role of religion within school. So maybe we're not specifically talking about a religion, just the concept of religion, then you might have room for debate. Does that make sense? It really depends on the context of the topic. Same with like drugs. I don't really want to get into like specifics of drugs, but if we're talking more about like legality or prosecution, then that could be something we could do. So sometimes the topic depends on the angle you take where it could be appropriate or it might be a little too detailed or something that we're not going to dive into. So go ahead and submit it. I'm not going to like dock you. I just might not choose it for the final list.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but if there's something you're interested in, but do keep that in mind of like, is this going to take a turn maybe where, because we do, as much as we want to debate and not everybody's going to agree, we also don't want to cross. It's a fine line. We're in a gray, right? Speech and debate becomes a little gray because every topic is controversial, right? So how do you pick topics that nobody will get upset about, yet the whole point of the class is to debate, to have difference of opinions. So they kind of contradict each other a little bit, but hence the fine line that we're trying to walk. So if you have an idea, put it down. If it doesn't work, that's okay. Any other questions? So sorry, I can't give a more concrete answer. Okay, other questions? Okay, so I encourage you, work off this list. 3 of these, all 3 worksheets are summative. So if you didn't get 100%, make the adjustments, look at the rubrics, resubmit those. That will bump your grade, okay? 3 out of your 4 summative assignments are just in the last 3 weeks. So that's gonna really help. The formatives are 10%, certainly help, but the summatives are obviously gonna make the biggest impact. All right, okay. We are going to move on. Then I want to get into today's. We'll spend some time working on it, and then I'll give you some independent work time, kind of like what we've been doing. So again, just one last time. Also, the reminder, remember you have these lesson and recording pages. Whoops, where did it go? It's right here. These lesson and recording pages, I placed it right above week 7, just for that's because that's when I took over. So each week, right, I post what we're doing each day, kind of a summary of those announcements, the list of what's class due, and then recordings from class. Oh, that's a very flattering look right there. Okay. So like today's class that I'm recording, then I will post it here. So if you ever need to go back and you want some instruction or you miss class or anything like that, or your scholar, whatever, then you can find each class recorded there corresponding with the week. All right. So if you didn't get in the topics one, get that in. We're not going to spend any more time on it today because we did spend time on that on Tuesday. And we're going to jump into our topic of the week, which is, let me get down here. Okay, so everybody's going to need to go to this. So log into Canvas if you haven't already. All right, you're going to go to week 9 and animal testing. All right, basically, is it ethical? Should we do it? I think we can all agree nobody loves the concept of testing on animals. But the question then becomes, do the pros outweigh the cons? Are there regulations we should do? Should we get rid of it altogether? If we get rid of animal testing, then what would we replace it with? What would we test on? That's a question, you know? So there's a lot of sides to this debate, again, that are very gray. Most people, right? Fruits and vegetables. Yeah, yeah. Don't know how effective that's going to be when we're trying to test like cancer or vaccines or, things like that. But that becomes in the hard question, right? So this is a hard debate that you'll need to pick a side, but I don't know about you. Sometimes even when I pick a side, sometimes I see the other side too. I'm like, I lean this way, but I see this. And I feel like this is one of those topics where it's a hard one, and there's some solid arguments on both sides. Okay, there's some solid arguments on both sides. So go to this page. The makeup, yeah. So there's certain industries I have a hard time with that. I agree. Like, what are we putting it on the bunny? And like, the mascara is a little ridiculous and stuff like that. But I guess I think of it more like medical industry. That's why we have seen a huge reduction in animal testing in the cosmetic industry. It still happens, but it has gotten better. And stuff. So, so there's the debate then, maybe depending on the type of testing, right? Maybe not for cosmetics, but maybe in medication. Bronzing the bunny. Yeah, seriously. All right. Okay. Step 1, go ahead and open up the worksheet. Let's get going. Use our time wisely. All right. So open up the worksheet. As always, then we're going to save this to our drive. Okay. So if you don't already, make a speech and debate folder. Okay. I'm telling you, being organized is going to make your life so much easier. I'll even prove to you, I even have a speech and debate folder. Look at this. All right. Let me see. I've got folders for everything. NVLA, going down, speech and debate. I even have them broken up by topic, so I can find my stuff, right? Okay. So save it onto your drive and then make it shareable. All right. So that's anyone with the link, so that when you submit it, I can grade it. Okay. Give me a thumbs up once you have this open. You're ready to go. The worksheet open, ready to go. I'll give like 1 more minute. Okay, well, I'm waiting for people to get that open. So we're going to overview. There's these 2 videos that I think kind of give a lot of different sides to the argument. Okay, so a lot of food for thought, and you can reference these in your sources. Okay, again, like I said, you can't use it for the same one. But we have like a pros con one on what science has gained through animal testing and stuff. And then I have more sources down here. So again, more articles showing pros and cons on articles and videos showing the pro side, so the benefits and why animal testing is deemed necessary or why it's our best option. And then I have the con side, and I try to be as balanced as possible, like, number of sources and kind of validity of sources. So I really try. So even creating it, like it's hard, because you lean one way or another, but making sure that we're being fair, right, in the investigation, and that people have the right to choose their side and argue their side, even if you don't agree, but the right to choose that side and argue that side. All right. If one of the links doesn't work, I try to give more links this time, because on my end, everything goes through. So sometimes I can't tell ahead of time, like what's going to be blocked and what isn't. So hopefully we won't have issues or a ton of issues today. All right. All right, let's get going then. So we're going to watch this video looking at the basics. I don't know about you, if you're someone that likes to take notes, if you're on the fence, you're like, I'm not sure which way I'm going to go. Maybe grab a piece of paper and make a T-graph, pro, con, and jot down some stuff to maybe help you start to lean, and because sometimes morally it's hard to choose. And so you have to just lean one way or the other. You see both sides. I feel like for me personally, this is one of them where I lean both ways. I can see the argument on both sides. So at the end of the day, it kind of just becomes which one weighs a little bit more than the other. But again, you can use your criteria or how you would morally come to this conclusion. Okay. All right, here we go.
Animal testing is when non-human animals are used in experiments. Animals can be tested on numerous different experiments, including to determine the toxicity of chemicals, as well as whether or not products are suitable for humans. In this video, we will look at both sides of the argument, examining why certain people think animal testing should happen and why others staunchly oppose it. The arguments for and against animal testing have been put into 3 groups: ethical arguments, arguments about the efficiency of animal testing, and arguments about the cost of animal testing. Let's start with ethical arguments, by far the most popular type of argument used to defend or attack animal testing. Firstly, we need to understand what an ethical argument is. Ethics concerns what is morally right and wrong, so ethical arguments for or against animal testing focus on whether or not it is morally right or wrong. Proponents of animal testing argue that it is morally right as it has helped with the development of many life-saving treatments for both humans and animals. Opponents of animal testing argue, on the other hand, that it is cruel and inhumane to the animals and that there are often alternative methods that could be used to test product suitability for humans. There is also the moral argument that animal testing is acceptable because animals are inferior to humans. They lack sentience and reason and have historically been considered inferior throughout many different times and cultures. Opponents say that this argument does not speak to the benefits of animal testing. Instead, it attempts to justify humans causing harm and suffering to animals simply for the sake of it. Animal testing can also be justified or criticized on grounds of efficiency. Efficiency means getting the most out of something, not wasting resources. So proponents of animal testing argue that animals are very close to humans when it comes to DNA and organs, meaning that testing on them provides insight into humans. However, opponents would argue that we are not that similar to the animals that are being tested upon. We are bigger, we have different skeletons, etc., making testing on them a waste of their lives. Plus, opponents would also argue that tests on animals do not always reliably predict results in humans, meaning some drugs that harm animals help humans, and some that harm humans do not harm animals, again furthering the argument that animal testing is inefficient. The final group of arguments for or against animal testing concerns cost. In terms of cost, opponents of animal testing argue that it is a waste of money, as the results are not necessarily predictive of results in humans, and the same tests can be done for cheaper via stem cells and synthetic organs, for example. Proponents would argue, on the other hand, that animal testing saves money, as it avoids lawsuits and the cost of drugs having to be remade if they fail human trials. Overall, it seems that animal testing is favoured by some because they think it helps save lives. They argue that by testing on a living organism before humans, it helps speed up the process of producing new drugs for patients. On the other hand, opponents of animal testing question whether it is really worth the pain and the suffering it causes them, as it is expensive, not always reliable, and has many different alternatives. That's animal testing for you. Thanks for watching. Please like, please share.
Okay, so gives kind of an overview. Obviously, there's the ethical approach, right? Is it morally right or is it morally wrong to be testing on animals, knowing when you're doing that testing that you could very likely be causing harm to that animal? Not always, but you know, especially when you're testing things like, for cancers or, illnesses and stuff like that, you are knowingly putting their life at risk. So is that humane, or is it better to test on their life than a human life, and stuff? So this is a hard one. I think most people don't like the idea. I don't know if he's like, yeah, let's go kill some animals. Like, I think most people, we walk that line, but then do we make enough advancement? So it's a hard one, and stuff. Cost wise, can we duplicate, is the testing on an animal close enough to humans? Sometimes it aligns with humans, sometimes it doesn't. And you'll find examples of both, where it works to test on animals and translates over to humans, and then times where it doesn't. So that argument, there's quite a bit of evidence on both sides, depending on the type of and the medicine or the trial, and things like that. So time-wise, some people argue animals have a shorter lifespan, so being able to see the impact of tests over a lifespan in a shorter period of time versus a human lifespan. So if we're testing on humans, a lifespan could be 80 years versus maybe a rat is a couple of years, 4 or 5 years, So being able to see the cycle in a shorter real life period of time has been one pro argument. Con, though, again, is that rats don't equate to humans. So what works on that or doesn't work on them doesn't always then align with that. So that can be difficult. Okay, let's watch one more. And then I'll set you loose to kind of start looking at some of these other resources. Again, I think this is one of those arguments you can take aside. There's a lot of cases on both sides. Okay, so can we do science without animal testing?
Why do we do animal experiments? We need scientific data to assess the effects, good or bad, of nutrients and other chemicals in our food, medicines, and other products. And with new products emerging all the time, the demand for data is only increasing. Most data come from laboratory testing. Sometimes trials are done on humans, and that includes testing on new medicines. In most cases, though, that would be too risky. So we traditionally rely on animal experiments. But for various reasons, society and scientists are increasingly unhappy with animal testing. Most obviously, we don't want animals to suffer. And our society is becoming less willing to accept it. And experiments involving animals are expensive, so there are economic considerations too. But crucially, mice are simply not people. Organs on a chip, tissue cultures, and computer models can sometimes more closely mimic human biology. They can help us understand what happens inside our body to the things we eat. So, the good news is that new science and technology are making alternatives to animal testing not only viable, but in some cases even better. What are these alternatives? We call them the 3 R's. Replacement is about recreating the conditions inside a living being using cell technology or computer models instead of animal experiments. So in this way, along with observations from animal experiments, we can use data generated without animals too. Reduction means obtaining similar information from fewer animals or more information from the same. This can, for example, be achieved through improved study design and statistical analysis. The additional information can then be used to minimize the number of animals needed in experiments. Refinement is about relieving the pain or distress of test animals and improving their welfare. Laboratory conditions of animals are better now, but more can still be done. But can we do risk assessment without animal data? Well, more complex effects are still difficult to predict from cell culture experiments, such as what happens to chemicals in our body after we eat them. And that's why in some areas, such as pesticides and food additive authorization, the law requires that we look at animal data. And a future without animal testing. With more scientific innovation, soon we may be able to ensure our food is safe with far fewer animals than today. Maybe one day we'll be able to do it with no animal testing at all. And wouldn't that just be great, guys? Come on.
Okay, the fiddle was a little bit much, right? So, but interesting points, they're able to simulate with cells and stem cells and stuff, some research, it's stuff to maybe predict, big scary, yeah, to predict how something might impact us. But there is in some cases, how do you replace the live specimen? Petri dishes can only go so far. Computer animation can only go so far. How do we, so we're getting there, but science still, to duplicate the living being, the closest thing that pros would argue is animals, right? To actually see on a living being how something would actually impact. So this is a hard one on, then what's the alternative? Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to pick one of two positions. Okay. You're going to do this on your sheet. Okay. You're going to complete part 1. Yes, animal testing is necessary and should stay in practice. Doesn't mean you have to like it, but you feel the pros outweigh the cons, that it's a necessary quote evil, or a necessary, we don't like it, but it's a necessary thing that we benefit from. So we should keep doing it. Or no, animal testing is not necessarily inhumane or needs to stop. Okay. So here are more articles that show pros and cons. Okay. So kind of, if you're still on the fence, maybe check out a couple of these that kind of summarize, pros and cons, give some statistics and things like that. So those can be really helpful. Some from the pro list, the Stanford research talks about how important they are, the importance of animal testing. So some breakthroughs that have come through that. Breakthroughs, this video right here, that because of animal testing gives some historical examples of medications, data, and things like that. Without animal testing, we wouldn't have seen the success, or we wouldn't have known. So some breakthroughs that might convince you even more toward pro. And then on the con side, again, videos kind of giving some insight into, cruelty cases, historically, cosmetic one, okay, the use of animals. It has been greatly reduced, but in the 1980s, it was a real problem, and some of the issues and things ethically and morally that came up with that, okay? So the thing I do want to specify or make sure that we're on the same page with, so pick a side, all right? Doesn't mean you don't empathize with both sides, okay? But sometimes in life, a lot of things maybe do feel gray. So maybe you lean one way or another, or you see both sides of the argument, but you have to pick a side. What way would you more lean? Okay. And stuff. And especially if you're in a debate situation where you are forced to choose a side, or you have to argue a side, then you got to commit to it, right? You have to commit to it if the idea of that you are going to give a strong argument and trying to convince people or win the argument. So your supporting evidence, choose 2 sources. They need to be different. So reference 1 and reference 2 sources need to be different. So they cannot be the same source. Okay. And then what I'm finding a lot of you are doing is giving me just big paragraphs of copy and paste. I'm not going to be accepting that anymore. I want you in your own words, or I don't mind if it's a line or 2, but then you need to add to it. Okay. So just copying and pasting an entire paragraph, that's not really showing me that you're narrowing down what's the quote, the stat, the reference, the example that is meaningful to your argument, okay? So find that and either summarize it, or if you're going to copy paste, it needs to be a lot shorter, like a line or 2, and then add to it why you think this is important. Like, see, this is a good example of why we should not do animal testing. It's absolutely wrong. Or yes, where it's a necessary evil that we benefit from and the pros outweigh the cons. So giving that specific example, okay? And doing that for each one. I don't want these massive paragraphs, because it's not really showing that you are pulling the data or pulling the reference and applying it in your own voice. Okay. For the con argument, so if for the opposite side, okay, so whichever side you choose, 2 sources that support your point, 1 source that would go against or counter to your point. Okay. Same thing. Make sure that you're being realistic of acknowledging and having meaningful statistics or examples of things that might weaken your argument or counter your argument. That's part of also being a good debater, realizing you could still have your opinion and think you're right, but you actually become a better debater and speaker when you acknowledge that the other side probably also has some valid points that you would have to counter or convince why yours are more important. And then one other thing, I've been docking a few people in this section. When you're doing one paragraph, the 5 sentences, you need to reference, give me a specific 1 or 2 examples from your evidence of how you would develop your argument, okay? So kind of just giving me general points. Then oftentimes I've been commenting, please give me a stat, give me an example, give me, again, pull it from up here and incorporate it into your writing as if you were giving that speech. Okay. All right. Questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Oh, I missed a whole thing. Everything on flies, literally, like, why do they exist? Well, flies are actually really important for microspecies, for other microorganisms and waste and things like that. I know they're a pest, don't get me wrong. Waste and yes, exactly. Mosquitoes, again, they're necessary evils. Believe me, there's plenty of things I would love to get rid of. Spiders would be one of them. I hate spiders, cannot stand them, but they're so important. So important with bug. Oh gosh, roaches. Yeah, that might be one we just get rid of. But again, waste, they're and a part of oh, they're so gross, right? They're so gross. I know they're so gross. But part of the balance of the whole, ecosystem, right? And you see that when one animal or species goes extinct, it can completely throw off. We've seen this in a lot of areas with like crocodile population. Like if you look at Florida, parts of Australia, it's gotten so out of control that it's threatening other species. So anytime you have excess or lack of a certain species, right, it can create an imbalance. Yeah, right. Right. Okay. So I'm going to give you some time. All right. Look through these sources. So kind of pick which side you're thinking, and then start combing through the sources. The pro cons, those can go to either side. All right. Which you're welcome to use. And then look through some of these sources. Watch one of the videos of a source that supports or goes toward what you're leaning for, and then pick two sources. All right. And then pick one that would show your counter argument, which you could use the pro cons for, or whichever side you don't choose. Okay. So lots of sources to choose from. Ew. Okay. You guys are creeping me out now. Yuck. Ugh. Am I the only one that screams when I kill a bug? Like I'll get like, and I'm very violent, and I'll like grab the shoe or whatever, and I'm like, bam, and I'm like, like, right? Tell me I'm not alone, right? Sounds like you try to save them. Oh, you're a better person than me. Use my feet. I can't. I don't want them on my shoes. I always use my husband's shoes. I'm like, you're not home to kill them. So he works a lot of evenings. I'm like, you're not home to kill them. So that's the price you pay. Oh, ladybugs. I do agree. I love ladybugs. They're so cute. Yeah, you actually don't want to touch them. You just want to leave them alone. Bees too. Bees is another one. We really need bees for pollinating and things like that. And so really try to just leave bees alone as much as you can. All right. How do we go down this bug rabbit hole? You guys are funny. There are too many European bees in Europe or here. Have they somehow made it here? Hmm. Okay, so endangering like I guess North American bees. I don't know. I don't know the categories of bees, so I don't want to get it wrong. That can happen sometimes. We've seen that with in Australia. I watched a documentary on saltwater crocodiles and freshwater crocodiles, and the saltwater crocodiles keep moving inland and are literally eliminating all the freshwater crocodiles. So yeah, that can happen where one element of a species can overtake and be bad for another species. Unless you're allergic, right? Yeah, make sure you got the EpiPen close. Okay, let's get focused. Let's get this done. This is our last summative assignment of the quarter. Let's get this done. I'm going to let you guys go at 3 because I got to pick up my kids, but let's do this. If you have questions, let me know if any of these are blocked. If one's blocked, then it's not a big deal, but like if a bunch of them, then I got to go on the hunt and try to find things that aren't blocked. So let me know. Goal would be to try to get this done in class, or a good chunk of it done in class, right? Get those topics submitted to me this week so that next Thursday we can start narrowing down and have a conversation about what topics we want to focus on for fourth quarter. Any of the sources not opening? We just go and remove them. I tried to do like more options this time. Okay, good. Maybe I got lucky this week. Hit and miss. Yeah, because on my end, I'm just on my normal computer and stuff, so everything opens. I don't know what the Chromebooks are going to block. All right, are we doing okay? Anybody need any assistance, help? Okay. All right, keep going. Thank you. Good job. All right, get it submitted. I'll get it graded. If not today, I'll grade it tomorrow. Okay. Did I send out an email? I sent out an update email last week and stuff, and I sent failing notices. So I did send failing notices on Monday, and then I sent out like an update email. So I sent like an update email, and within it, I just kind of generally say if you're missing assignments. So maybe if it's the general one, maybe have him go back and read, you know, kind of just covering the scope. So I send those like usually every other week, just like updates. Here's what we've been working on. If you're missing assignments, here's what you can do just to kind of communicate. And then I send like specific failing notices. So if you had your stuff in, it was probably just the general one. Well, I'm not trying to get anybody yelled at, so I'm sorry. So I send like general ones. Yeah, I send like general ones, just updates like here's what's going on, here's end of the quarter. And honestly, it's to communicate with parents, but it's also, if I'm being honest, to cover myself, because then, not that your parents would do that, but there are parents that do, that come back and blame the teacher like I didn't know. Do you see what I mean? So those are meant to just kind of like record of like I reached out, I gave notices, like check your things. This is when the quarter closed, stuff like that. And then I send like specific failing notices, usually like every other week. But it'll say like you are not passing this class. So that one, like that one's very clear. So yeah, because there's always the one parent that comes back at the end of the quarter and like, I had no idea my child was failing. I'm like, seriously? So no shots at anybody. Welcome to teacher life. Yeah. Yep. Welcome to teacher life. Yeah, that's like I have 200 kids and it's my fault that your kid's failing. That's welcome to teacher life. I'm not complaining. Like I love being a teacher and stuff like that, but there's definitely like there's things we have to do to just cover ourselves because we get blamed for students not doing their work. So all the time, happens every semester. Even though we do it in class, I record class. So someone can watch the recording of me complaining about recording it. So this is being recorded, but it's true. So that's why I post those announcements in Canvas with the list of assignments, you know, those lesson recording pages. So there's just lots of communication. So if you're, it is, I think, well, that is one of the things I think teachers do need to communicate. I do think teachers need to communicate. It's not fair if they don't send anything or post things, but it's also students have to have a responsibility, right? To be accountable for their end. Exactly. That's a good one. Like it depends on the class. So like core classes, required classes, then there's like required curriculum, right? So you have like assignments and things you have to work with. Electives like this one, there's a lot more wiggle room. The problem with not assigning a lot of assignments though is that you have to be able to show students had ample opportunity to earn a grade, right? So you don't, as a teacher, you don't want to have so many that they can't get it done, but you don't want to have so few that their grade is determined by a couple of assignments. Like you want to be able to provide opportunity. So there isn't like a set number. The rule is kind of one of each per week. That's kind of what I've done with this class, like one formative, one summative, so that no one formative or summative, right, is determining your grade. You're gonna make pasta. Yum. Random, but I'm here for it. I never met a carb I didn't like. Give it. I see where we're going with this. Bribery. You're like, what is this teacher's currency? What is the currency? I like it. No, you're cracking me up. It's fun to make pizzas a family. Mine did. Okay, that's not funny. That's just probably why. You guys are killing me right now. I'm really sorry about your grandma, Cielo. I lost my grandma last year, and it's hard when you lose them. You have to be so careful with the dough, right? Too much water, too much flour. If you over knead it, you know what I mean? Like work it. Not like knead it, K-N-E, like K-N-E-A-D. It look like a sir. This is what fourth quarter is going to come to. We're going to have debates on the right way to make dough. Submit your video. Convince us. Taste test. Virtually. Who's more convincing? Submit your topics. I'm open. Submit your topics. I'm open. I'll put them on a list. You guys get to vote. So we'll do about 5 more minutes. Submit. Yeah. Throw it on the list. Like I said. Something like that. I don't know if we can like research it. Maybe like provide one source and then, yeah, you'd have to probably present video, you know, some evidence, but I'm down. I'm happy to watch you make dough. Well, that would be so. You guys made the suggestion. Chef Koo in the house for real. You're like Food Network calling. He burns quesadilla. Don't trust it. Oh man, we're getting called out. It's not even burned. Okay, we'll do about 2-3 more minutes. I'll go over just quickly it was black. That's pretty bad, Koo. I'm sorry. It's black. Tortillas are like a light beige, like the color of my couch. You'll find a photo. You take photos of your food before you eat it. We need to get you a hobby. That's right. Shots fired. You have too many hobbies. Whoa, Cielo, you're going. I'm assuming you two are friends in real life, so the cheap shots are allowed, right? No, kinda. Whoa. Not really. I feel that. Well, I just think like once in a while, like I'll post like, I don't know, like if I go to a nice restaurant and the plate is pretty and stuff like that, but I don't really ever take pictures of food that I make. You got emo music playing right now? But you told me to stay. All right. I'll tell you what. I'm going to do you all a favor. I'm going to wrap things up. All right. Let me go over my last little spiel. So no small group on Friday or next Monday or the following Friday because I have to proctor ACTs. So if you're going to be on campus taking the ACTs Friday, Monday, or Friday, maybe you'll be in my room. Come by, say hi. Well, you can't really do that. If you're in my room, I'll say hi. So, okay. Make sure you get your attendance done on Friday. All these assignments that are past due open, if you haven't turned them in, or you can resubmit for more points, definitely get in this week's worksheet. That's a big summative, right? Each of those are worth 50 points. So 3 summatives out of 4 are open to you. And again, if I grade it and you don't get full credit, as long as it's resubmitted by the 5th before things close, then you can have a chance. Make the adjustments, look at the rubrics. It's really annoying when you just resubmit and you haven't made adjustments. So please make sure you're actually adjusting it if you're going to ask me to grade it again. That's just courtesy. But make sure you're getting that in. And if you need anything, go ahead and email me. Otherwise, I will see you next Tuesday. All right. I will see you next Tuesday. You have a quick question? Go ahead.
Yeah. When is spring break?
Spring break is next Friday is the last day. And then we have spring break.
Okay. Okay. Good. Okay. Thank you.